Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to an episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, and this is the beginning of the final ever season on this game with this My Team Career Series, episode number 131 at the Australian Grand Prix for season number 8. And if you guys did miss the pre-season video uploaded yesterday, then go check that one out. That will kind of clue you up on the entirety of the setup of this season, essentially. The driver transfers, our brand new car, our new team, obviously. We've got a new car, new engine supply, new teammate, a lot of updates to go through. So definitely check that pre-season video out if you want to be clued up on what's going on here. But yeah, this is quite surreal, It only seems like, a month ago or something we started seasons 1 and 2, and we're starting this game last year in July, and 131 episodes, that's a lot. We've got 16 more to go, including this one, but it's been one hell of a ride. And of course, season 7 was maybe the craziest yet, so I'm hoping we can have more of the same in season 8. It's going to be a new challenge. With that new engine supplier comes a challenge of maybe losing some straight line speed. The drivability is going to be different. We've got a very different teammate in the form of Mick Schumacher, 98 rated, I want to add as well. I don't think I pointed that out properly at the end of the pre-season video, but with the final training we did in pre-season, the activity timeline, he went up from 95, which was with our HQ facilities, to 98 rated. So very, very good on paper. Whether that translates to on-track performances, we'll see. But just before, we're looking through our in-game trophy cabinet and looking at how we've done over the seasons. But of course, very much like in real-life Formula 1, in the game, brand new season, everything gets reset to 0. Nothing you've done in the past matters. It's all about this one new season. Everyone starts from the same point at 0, and we go again. So we go into Saturday for the Australian Grand Prix, round number 1 of this one, and unfortunately for me, you can clearly see it is rather dull and rather wet, and we've actually got the full wet blue wall tyres on, and well, I saw enough rain in the last, 4 episodes. We had it, too much, to be honest, at places like Japan and Mexico, but we've got some more rain to kick off this season. Thankfully, I think the forecast is for a dry race, so Sunday may not be as difficult, but this is going to be tricky because not only is this in full wet conditions, which you guys know if you follow me along, I'm not that great in versus my dry time pace, but also we are in a new car, and it really is a new car in terms of we've got the new engine, the Honda in the back of this one instead of the Mercedes car, and that does change the actual game files underneath in the coding, and that will change things like the drivability. And it's been 2 whole seasons since I've had to swap an engine, so it's been a while since I've had to get used to that difference in the driving, the way the power is delivered, the way the engine braking is. We've seen in real life the new guys that have come into new teams with new engines or just new outlets. It's taken them a while, even in real life, to get used to. You've got multiple world champions in the form of Alonso and Vettel, both still getting used to their cars. And it's the same thing in the game here. When you switch the engine, it really is a very big difference in how the actual feeling is in between your hands. In the case of me, when I'm using a steering wheel and pedals, and even on the throttle, it's very, very different. But the thing is, I didn't get the luxury, essentially, in this session of feeling that out in the dry. So my first outing in this car in the dry is going to be on lap 1 in the race, because these days, obviously 8 seasons in, I don't bother doing any sort of practice, so we kind of just get through to the business end of the race weekend. So my first ever laps in this car are going to be in the full wet, so it really doesn't give me a good picture of where things are. So it's certainly diving into the deep end then at the start of this season, so I can thank the F1 gods for the rain on Saturday. But here we are then, our 3rd lap this is in Q1, trying to improve, and we actually have a massive tank slapper moment there as we try to get on the power, and usually that's full throttle in the dry. In the wet, I thought I could just try and feather it and then kind of slam it down halfway through the corner, but the car just gave away and aquaplaned into the wall. Thankfully, we just about scraped through, but Mick only also just made it through in P16, so he, by narrow margins, is through into Q2. So that isn't that great to look at. We're P14 and 16. You've got our outgoing teammate, Lando Norris, in his new Red Bull going fastest of all. Shock horror, not really too surprised. We've been very used to that in Season 7. But I'm just hoping that's Q1, the usual thing where, you know, we're pretty slow at Q1. But it's surprising to see Mick that slow as well, because usually our AI teammate is straight on it from Q1, from the get-go. So maybe because the rain's here, maybe that's affecting things. So now looking for a bit more pace in the car in Q2, but I'm not going to lie, the car didn't feel any much better in this session than the last. We were locking up quite a fair bit in Sector 1, and the rear end was actually quite stable, but the front end was just very unresponsive. It was very hard to get a bite in, essentially, on any corner, and it just felt like I was just kind of, that I was there for the ride. I wasn't driving the car was driving me. So I think that's partly also getting used to the car itself, not just the wet conditions, because usually it's actually my rear end that's lively, of course, as you guys know, plenty of oversteer, but wasn't getting too much of that, actually. As you can clearly see, you can just see, really, more so than anything, it's just looking a bit, I don't know, flat, at least to my eyes. I can tell, because I was obviously the one driving it, but it was a bit flat. And so we're here in P12 after our first run. We go for a second run. We've gained nearly 3/10 there. Is that going to be enough to get us through into the top 10? No, it won't. And we are out in Q2. And Mick has gone and put it fastest of all. So it was just our teammate being a little bit slow randomly in Q1, because he's finally woken up and he's fastest of all in this session. That's just a massive howler from us. Russell's out, Hamilton as well. But both Red Bulls through, both Ferraris are through. So looks like Red Bull and Ferrari may be enjoying an uptick of performance in this final ever season compared to the dismal heights that they were down in last year. But for us, we start off on the back foot. P11 though, I mean, it doesn't really matter. There's no free choice of tire, because everyone gets a free choice. So it's not really much of an advantage. So really, if anything, it's just poor on the back foot. The first dry lap I'm going to turn of this car is lap 1 of the race, so that's not great either. So we are making things hard for ourselves here in the first race weekend. And Mick, well, I mean, if he carries that performance into Q3, he may just find himself on pole position for the first time for this team on his return ever since Season 1. Let's go to the grid. Let's find out as we look through that grid sequence.
Months of rumour and speculation all come to an end today, as we return to Melbourne for the opening race of what promises to be an enthralling season. Welcome along then to the Australian Grand Prix. Just south of Melbourne's downtown business centre is the one and only Albert Park circuit. 3.3 miles of public roads, closed for the weekend of course, make for a bumpy circuit with little undulation. There are 16 corners around the lake and a couple of good passing opportunities here as well, thanks in part to the DRS zones into turns 1, 3 and 13. A new season then, a clean slate where anything could happen. Anthony Davidson is with me today as we get another year of Formula 1 underway.
We're into those tense few minutes before the first race then. Everyone's a little bit nervous about reliability. They haven't been running in the hot, turbulent wake of other cars in practice, and they've not been pushing at 100% for long durations. Let's hope no one has to deal with any nasty surprises.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position and Mick Schumacher completes the front row. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Norris, Ocon, Max Verstappen and Giovinazzi, Gasly, Albon, De Vries and the owner driver, Sainz, Bottas, Lance Stroll and Hamilton, Kvyat, Russell, Nobuharu Matsushita and Kevin Magnussen, Aitken, Latifi, Joe and Luca Giotto. Now, it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
I don't know how much the wet weather would have affected the pecking order, but it looks like Ferrari and specifically Leclerc may be back. But Schumacher did a great job. He's on the front row in second place. So shows the car did have some pace in the tank. It was just me that wasn't able to find it. So no excuses there for me. I've just got to pick up the pieces now from P11. Strategy-wise, it indicates a 1 stop, but we know last season the 2 stop was actually very quick. If it wasn't for, I think literally we came in second place, remember? remember, only to Verstappen, who was maybe a lap or two away from doing the two-stop himself. So I think the two-stop is still the way to go, and like last season, we may see quite a few cars make a late pit stop maybe if they can't stretch the compound all the way through. That is the hards or the mediums, whatever one they want to choose. But we're going to start on the softs, be punchy, try and gain some positions at the start, try and get back to where I think we kind of should have been starting at least in Q3 in the wet, and then we'll see what we can do from there. But at the moment, it'll be Schumacher flying the flag for our team from the get-go on the front row. But here we go then for the final time on this game. We start a brand new career mode season here as we go to 5 red lights, and we're underway down under in Australia. It's a very gloomy start to the Grand Prix weekend. Hopefully that's not a sign of things to come. Schumacher with a great start into turn 1. He's taken the lead. Mick Schumacher leads the race for our team as we're into P9. We're side by side with De Vries. He's still got his nose in on the left-hand side. Gasly and Albon side by side up the road. But no, Mick Schumacher has got the Ferrari. Leclerc down to P2. Norris stays in P3 in the Red Bull, I believe, as Gasly gets squeezed out by Albon. It was a slow start from the Frenchman. He's the only man in the top flight here on the medium compound tyre, so we need to try and get past him because he's going to be slower initially in this first bit of the Grand Prix. Eventually, he will have the advantage as these softs will wear out very, very quickly. We saw that time and time again on this game. These soft compound tyres are so easy to wear out and start overheating especially as well. So can we try and go around the outside here, testing the straight line speed very close to the wall, but look at the grip difference there with the soft compound tyre, and we're up into P8. So a very tasty move on one of our arch rivals, Pierre Gasly, on the F1 game, and the car feeling good there at least. But remember, that is soft compound versus medium. So now the rest of the people up the road, they're all on soft. So now let's see what we've got going on. But at the moment, Schumacher leads the way in our car, and his helmet just goes with our car, doesn't it? Just goes with the paint scheme. Leclerc in second. Then you've got Lando Norris in his new Red Bull in third place. Fourth place is Esteban Ocon in the McLaren. Verstappen in the Mercedes, Giovinazzi. Then you've got Albon in the Aston Martin liveried Racing Point car. We're chasing after, sparking away. Can we maybe make another little look around the outside? No, don't quite have the straight line speed advantage versus this Racing Point. Remember, this car was one of the quickest cars last season, and we've lost straight line speed with the Honda Power Unit. If you watch the pre-season video, you'll know out of all 4 that were available to us in this final season, the Honda is actually the worst for durability and out-and-out speed. So we've given ourselves a challenge in that regard, going back to our first ever engine in this career mode series. But, you know, I wanted to pay homage to the beginnings of this career, and it just means maybe our racing's that much harder. I guess that's a good thing for you guys as we now continue to try and pressurize Albon. Good turn 1 there. Actually got a good bite in on the front end. No DRS yet, just ERS. Albon very defensive on the inside. Oh no! We've hit Albon, and there's a massive crash with us and the Ferrari. Giovinazzi got caught up, and Albon, I think he moved a little bit in the brake zone, but we misjudged that completely, and it's a massive crash for us 3 in the gravel. Front wing off. I don't think the Ferrari or Aston Martin are out. I think they're still both in this race, but a virtual safety car is out then, and this is what went on. You see there, Albon did move a little bit to the left, but I don't think it was enough really to warrant anything. Here's a little slow-mo. So this is when I start to turn left, and as I do that, Albon does the exact same thing. So he does move a little bit in the brake zone, but yeah, overall, you can see there, I'm still accelerating at this point, so I've just misjudged this completely. So in the end, I think it's more kind of just my fault really of misjudging when I was pulling out to make that move. And here's the quite spectacular camera shot from focusing on the Ferrari, and Giovinazzi, bless him, just gets completely sideswiped there. And so we've had an absolute nightmare. So not only were we already having to make up positions, we're now down to second last place. We've got no front wing on our car. Giovinazzi and Albon joining me, and so the pain and the difficult race weekend just gets more difficult for us on this first race in Season 8 as we're now coming into the pit lane, racing Albon in as he's got damage as well. But Ultimately, yeah, I think that was, I'll put my hands up, I think that was just basically my fault. I misjudged that. Didn't expect Albon to move that late, but that tiny movement was enough for me to catch me out. As you saw on the kind of slow-mo there, whilst Albon started to brake, I was still fully committed to accelerating for like 1 more second, because I was going to go for the big, long lunge really deep into the corner around the outside, but because I just misjudged how early I had to turn out of that, I just hit the back of him, and obviously we're going at such great speeds there, you just completely even with braking, just sideswipe the Ferrari, unfortunately for him, so apologies to Giovinazzi there. But yeah, so absolute nightmare. This has been an absolute roller coaster of emotions, and because, you know, our teammate Schumacher, as it stands, is still leading this race. So for the team, it's actually still an okay race here, as now we watch Ocon trying to go around the outside of Norris there. These two used to be teammates in McLaren back in seasons 4 and 5, I believe it was. Some time ago now, it feels like, but Ocon unable to make the move, and Verstappen in the two Mercedes cars closing up then, so that's turning into a bit of a tasty three-way fight, and the pressure is still on though for Schumacher as Leclerc keeps on his tail in second place in that Ferrari of his. But for now, Schumacher is soaking up the pressure and remains in first place, but Leclerc looks like he has a very good run through that chicane, I'm not going to lie. DRS open on the left-hand side, Schumacher squeezes him, but Leclerc, as they jockey for position, the front end squirrels around for the Ferrari, but he's round on the outside, the long way round, and he's into the lead. The Ferrari takes back the first place he had on the grid. Schumacher down to second, and now Norris is there in the Red Bull in third place, pressurising him. Also, it's a train of McLaren and Mercedes there as well, and Schumacher, he's looking a bit slow. Is there an issue for Mick, maybe, as Norris is through very easily with the DRS on the inside, and it's the Red Bull into second place? I don't know, he looked very, very sheepishly slow off that. Oh, there's surely a problem here, as now Ocon's getting him. Oh, this is turning into a disaster for the aarava Archer Racing team here. Round number 1 of season 8. Schumacher, I think he's surely got an issue. This can't just be tyre wear. This surely cannot be just tyre wear and a lack of experience. Maybe it is. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is what you get when you have an F2 driver, an original F2 driver, no matter how much they've been improved in stats, when they hit the tyre wear, when the experience counts, like in real life, maybe this is it. But the way he's just been overtaken by Verstappen there as well, he's been dropped down from first to 5th place in 1 lap. That is surely not just experience and a lack of, you know, AI stats. That is surely something wrong on that car, which is just, I mean, now I am doubly sure, because this is only a lap later, and Gasly on the medium tyres is catching up to him and sailing around the outside. He just looks so slow. I think something's wrong with the Honda engine in the back of his car, or something or other, which is an absolute nightmare. I just spoke earlier about, you know, taking the challenge of having the slowest engine on the grid, wanting to pay homage to the team roots, you know, starting off with Honda in this entire career mode season. But at the moment, if it's going to fail us in this way, this is a horrendous sight, as Hamilton's overtaken him as well. He's actually dropped from first to, what's that, like 7th or 8th in about the span of 4 laps. That can't just be his AI being slow. That's definitely a car issue, I think. And that's actually worse in a way, because that means it's a double disaster for our team in terms of, we've obviously put ourselves a little bit out there now. P16, to be fair, the early pit stop for us will help us out a bit, because we will get an undercut on the people going a little bit longer on the soft compound tyre, because all these guys, like last season, they'll be too stubborn about going longer on like lap 11 here. Only now they're pitting from their soft compound tyre, so we are going to gain some position. We already have on, you know, the likes of Fiat and whatnot, but you know, we're a little bit out of the range at the moment. But now to have the other car go from 1st to 7th, this is a very hard pill to swallow indeed. And talking about, you know, difficulties in this episode, you can maybe see there on the onboard chasing onto De Vries how, you know, understeery this car looks, how wide I'm going at every corner. The drivability is really poor. I didn't think there was this massive difference between the Mercedes power unit and the Honda in terms of drivability, the way the power gets delivered, the way the engine braking is. But I guess there is, because obviously I went from Honda to Renault to Mercedes, so I didn't get that, you know, sharp difference of Merc to Honda. I went to Renault, which is maybe a middle ground engine in terms of how smooth it is and whatnot. But it's very clear to me now that the best engine in the game, definitely in terms of, you know, just driving and handling, is the Mercedes car, because this felt so alien. Remember, this is a maxed out car still. All we've done is swap the engine. and that's made a massive difference, feeling-wise, and you guys will be able to see visually that it's just not looking as planted and as stuck onto the ground and as smooth as it ever was in the kind of last few or the entire season last year. And now at the moment having troubles getting past De Vries in the Alpha Tauri onto lap number 13, the third time lucky. Maybe we've been behind him. Round the outside we go, but still not got the confidence to dive around the outside, instead having to cut back in and go for the tighter exit. We have a second bite of the cherry with DRS. This time we're going to go through, move on the left hand side, get a little bit of PTSD though. I'm not going to lie, being behind a car there, that same section where we had the crash with Albon, but this time we're comfortably through on the left hand side, up into P12, and look who's up the road on P11. Mick Schumacher on the hard compounder tyre. We're making one more stop in this race. Looks like Mick's going long to try a very audacious one stop, it would seem, but he's still got car issues in the cockpit, and that is very clear to see here as we cut on just moments later, I think a lap or two later, and he has got massive issues in that car. I mean, the engine's slow, you saw that earlier. He's now got drivability issues, whatever that was, just going straight off in the brake zone, making a massive AI error there. We've seen a few of those in the last couple of seasons, but never for my own teammate, thankfully. Never had Lando do that ever last season. I think he obviously made that one mistake in Spain where he got a massive tank slapper and DNF'd out the Grand Prix, so these AI mistakes can really happen to anyone. But speaking of Lando, he's actually in the lead ahead of Ocon, and then you've got the two Mercedes cars as Leclerc has fallen down the order with a poor pit strategy, it would seem, maybe, I'm guessing, and Ferrari's had a massive blunder there as he's lost the lead. Moving on then to lap number 17, and yellow flags, and this safety car is out, and there's a huge crash between the Ferrari and the Williams car in sector 1, and the full course yellow is out for good reason. They're blocking very much the racing line. As you can see, the car got caught up behind that Ferrari. I think that was Giovinazzi, that wasn't Leclerc obviously, so Gio's had some horrid luck. He got spun round by me and Albon, and then crashed into, I think that was Luca Giotto in the Williams, and so the full course yellow is out. We're going to come in now on lap 17, a bit early, because I was going to go till lap, I would say 20 or 21, or maybe even more, 22 even, and go onto the soft compounder tyre, because that's how long the softs go. I think there's no point taking them longer than 7 usually, which is why I think maybe Ferrari lost out with Leclerc. I think they took Leclerc to lap 11 or 12 on the soft compound, so I think that's how he lost the lead of the race to Lando and Ocon in second as well. But we've come in anyway for the softs, because we may as well, because we're going to get a free pit stop onto the safety car, but it is going to mean that, like I said, we only want to take the softs for more than, 7 laps, so I will feel some tyre wear at the end of this thing. But the thing is now, with the safety car being out, I think all the guys on the hards, they're definitely going to try and take this to the end on the one stop. And as much as that's, the logical thing to do when the safety car's out, I think that's going to mean they're equally going to have a lot of tyre wear in this thing. So even though I'm going to have tyre wear with my soft compounder tyres having to go 10 laps, I think we might be still in a better position tyre wear wise than all the guys ahead of us. So let's see what we can do on the restart, going down the inside of the newly liveried McDonald's Haas car of Kevin Magnussen there into turn 1. Easy overtake there, but this is going to be the real tester then of the drivability and how comfortable I am in the car, because we're going to have to make some darting moves, some aggressive ones, and don't dawdle too much, because I need to make the most of these of this fresh rubber on the soft compound. As Kvyat in the Alpine holding us up quite a fair bit as we enter sector 2. You can see how much we're yo-yoing about and getting stuck behind him as he almost brake checks us in the middle of the corner. Can we make a dive on the inside or outside? Oh, Kvyat is really parking it very awkwardly. Walter almost dipped a tyre onto the grass to make a very audacious and very slick move in the end round the outside of it, if I do say so myself, but it was a little bit sketchy. That was almost an Albon repeat, hitting the back of him on the left rear tyre, but good exit now through the high-speed chicane. Bottas a bit slow in the Alpha Tauri. We go through to the inside. It's a nice dive, hit the apex beautifully, and we're up into P11. So right now, the car is feeling a bit better, but that is because we've got a massive tyre advantage, really. So let's not get it crossed up. Relative to how I was feeling last season in this same FOM car, definitely I'm not feeling as comfy. But that's no excuse. We've just got to get on with it, basically, and do the best job we can. And now we're catching up to our teammate Schumacher, who's slow. Obviously, I still think he's got a car issue, and we go sailing around the outside. That is such an unorthodox place to make a move, but we do it and assert our #1 status in the team for now. And we get straight on the back of De Vries immediately on the next lap, lap 22 on the outside. This was the move I wanted to make on Albon. Late break, quick darting round. We've got yellow flags on the left as Kvyat is now out of the Grand Prix in the Alpine on the left-hand side, but immediately lap 23, and we're now on the back of Lewis Hamilton, but he's going defensive on the inside in his McLaren and parking the car quite nicely. And remember, this is the kind of first of the kind of quick cars, essentially. You know, the McLaren, we know how good it is in a straight line. Ocon's up there in second place, pressurising Norris in the Red Bull, and look at the dirty air there, and the amount of understeer we got from braking a little bit too late as we're trying our best to hustle on Harry Hamilton, and it's a switchback of dreams into turn one though, as we fake to the outside, went to the inside then for the next corner, and we're through. But Hamilton with a late brake round the outside, we've still not got the confidence quite under braking yet with this car, but we've made the move finally up into P8, so we are slowly ticking off every position. But Sainz, this may be difficult because this man, he's in a car that's leading the race at the moment, and he's got the benefit of DRS off Stroll, and you can clearly see my tyres are going off a little bit, on top of me not being comfy with the car, meaning a very lively rear end and very unresponsive front end quite a few times. I mean, once again, having a snap of oversteer on the high-speed chicane, lap 27, so much so that Hamilton actually has a go at me on the inside. That's how bad that oversteer moment was, as we go defensive and just about keep that P8 onto the second last lap of the Grand Prix. So the laps have flown by now, and we've really wasted it, but I've not had the speed. Look at Sainz, he's well got the measure of me in a straight line, as he has DRS off Stroll, and to be honest, Stroll looks like the slower of the two as he holds up Sainz, an absolute treat. We go down the inside, there was a lock-up from the Canadian, and we've used that to our advantage, the domino effect there, and Stroll has not done Sainz any favours, pretty much backed him up into me, and we made a very opportunistic move into the last sector as we now go on to the last lap of the Grand Prix, and it looks like a battle may be brewing between the two Mercedes cars. Gasly behind, he was on a different strategy, remember, starting on medium tyres, so he may have better tyres than Verstappen right now. The fight for P3. Verstappen goes defensive. Gasly the long way round the two Mercs, making a bit of contact even into sector 2. Gasly on the inside, Verstappen on the right, and Verstappen will just about keep that. This is going to be for first bragging rights in the Mercedes team. Meanwhile, we continue to pressurise Stroll to see if we can get a last-ditch P number 6. He's very slow off that corner, and it's a good drive off that one for us. DRS used, screen freeze also. We haven't had one in a while in this episode, so it was bound to happen at some point, but what I can tell you, you didn't see it, but we did make a nice little move on the inside. Trust me, it did happen that way. And up the road, the two Mercedes cars are still going at it, and Gasly tries round the outside, doesn't quite do it, but he'll get a good run shortly. He'll have DRS now on the last lap, last little stretch here on the outside. Verstappen goes defensive, and Verstappen, I think he's going to do enough, you know. I think Verstappen's going to hold this. Yes, he will. Max Verstappen will hold this through for P3, I think. Gasly in P4, Leclerc P5, but meanwhile, Lando Norris wins the Australian Grand Prix for his first race in the Red Bull car. He wins, and we are so close to maybe getting Leclerc on the line. It was a drag race, couldn't quite do it. From where we were, second last place at one point, I think I'll very much take P6, especially with the team issues you've had with Mick as well.
We've witnessed some great battles on the streets of Melbourne today, and they've taken a fantastic win. Tell me, Ant, how do you think they were able to deliver such an incredible result today?
Well, the safety car completely changed the race, didn't it? It's hard to say exactly what would have happened without it, but there's no question that they came out of that situation in a good position.
The drivers are en route to the podium as we speak. What a fantastic win for the Red Bull team. They performed exceptionally today, keeping us firmly on the edge of our seats throughout the entirety of the race. Congratulations to everyone at the team.
Well, there you have it, and can I say I'm surprised? No, because we know how quick Lando's AI was last season as our teammate. So good on Saturday and in many races as well, and so he wins the first race of the season, and Red Bull returned to the top in a long while, actually. It's been like 2 seasons since Red Bull have been fully competitive, I think, especially last season. They were nowhere, as well as Ferrari, really. I mean, we came behind Leclerc. I mean, that didn't happen often last season, so it's obviously early days, hard to really tell the consistent form, but it looks like for this final season, we might just have Red Bull and Ferrari back in the fight, maybe rejuvenated by Lando coming to the team, maybe, and Ferrari just having that weird yo-yo effect. Racing Point losing a little bit of pace. Mercedes and McLaren still quick. And for us, well, it's early days, so it's hard to tell, but I feel like we've lost some pace. We're just switching to Honda. Just the drivability and the Honda power unit being a bit slower than all the other power units. We've definitely lost a little bit of pace, and a little bit goes a long way when you're all maxed out, and you're separated by tenths in qualifying. A little bit can make a huge difference, maybe, potentially. I don't know. We're going to have to see how it goes in Bahrain. I think the next couple of races will be the real litmus test of seeing where our car actually is, if we don't have Schumacher having issues. But this was a very troublesome Grand Prix for us to kick off this season, and it definitely puts us on the back foot. But I guess that's a good thing for you guys, because it means we have a challenge on our hands. We have something to overturn here. We have to try and turn the tide, because this is definitely not the way we need our whole season to go if we want to try and challenge for yet another championship to round out this game and this entire series. But if you guys did enjoy that one, then be sure to smash the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.